Welcome to lesson 17 of Beyond Basic Phonics, English Morphology 101. This is Don Potter in Odessa, Texas here, and we're looking at disguised Romance prefixes, number 1. Okay, we've studied simple Romance prefixes, and we've seen how that they help unlock the meaning of words. In other words, if you know a prefix, you can often know what the word means, even if you've never seen it before or don't have a dictionary handy or somebody to ask. But things get a little bit tricky with the so-called disguised Romance prefixes, because the prefix, the last letter of the prefix, will change according to the letter that follows in the word. And we're going to see how that works out. And so we're going to help you to still be able to unlock the meaning of these words, even though there is a change in the spelling. Notice there are some double consonants occur, not always, but in some cases, and we'll notice that. The N in the prefix con, which will be the first one we look at, changes to an L before a root beginning with an L. An R changes to the N changes to an R before an R. The N changes to an M before an M. A B or a P. Okay, and those are what we call bilabials. And so even though they're different, they all change to the M. All right, let's take a look. Disguised prefixes. Let's just read this real quick. Disguised prefixes are sometimes called chameleon prefixes. Now, you know what a chameleon is. A chameleon is an animal that changes its color according to its background so it can hide and from its predators or from the enemy. So these disguised prefixes are also called chameleon prefixes because they change their form, not their color, but their form, just like chameleons change their color to blend in with their surroundings. Now, linguists call this change assimilation. And it's a good word to know. You don't have to know that word to know how to find these, but it might impress your teacher. Tell her that, hey, I found a word here with a prefix that has the last letter assimilated to the next letter, and your teacher is going to think you're a genius. Anyway, these are also called euphonic change. It's also called a euphonic change. And eu in Greek, by the way, one of my other languages I love to read. Eu means good, and phonics means sound. So it means good sound. And so a euphonic change is one that makes it easier and more pleasing to pronounce a word. Okay, let's jump right into this. There's quite a few of these, and so I'm gonna kind of get hope to get a fast pace here. Con, C-O-N, con, which means together with, can also be spelled C-O-L, C-O-M, or C-O-R according to the next letter. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 forms that all mean together with. The first one is con, and we have the word convict, like when you convict somebody of something. Convince, I'm trying to convince you that these prefixes can help you to be a much better reader in a very short period of time. Then we have connect, and again, notice now we have a double letter there. Then we have connect, like you connect two wires together. Confide, when you confide in somebody, you tell them something that you don't tell other people. You confide, tell them your little secret. Conclude. I hope after you have studied this lesson with me, you will come to the conclusion, you will conclude that knowing how to identify these chameleon prefixes is going to help you to be a much better and more advanced reader. C-O-L, now here's the N changes to an L, and then look at this. It's because the second letter, the letter right after it, okay, is an L. So we have collect, like collect the papers. Collide, like when two cars collide, that makes a collision, doesn't it? And then we have a word, I don't hear this, I don't use this much, collusion. And it's when a good example would be two students get together to play a trick on their teacher. That would be called a collusion. But usually it's used in politics where that people collude one government against another. Okay, C-O-M, notice the next letter here is always what we call, and if you remember the phonovisual chart, or if you've used the phonovisual chart or other phonics chart, you know that the letters M, P, and B, your lips come together. And the technical term for that is bilabial. And so if the letter after the N, right, these are all actually C-O-N. Well, if that letter after that is a P or a B or an M, it's going to be spelled C-O-M. The N's going to turn. So we have compartment, like a compartment on the car where you put your gloves. Compound, that's a term we use in chemistry or physics and chemistry. Compound. Combined, when we combine things together to make one. And then we have component. Notice a long O there. Component at the end of the syllable. Component. So like a radio is made of different components, different parts. Next we have C-O-R. Again, here the N has changed to an R. And we have correct. You want to get the correct answer. Corrode. I tell all my students to be sure and oil their bike chain so it doesn't corrode, because that's going to lead to corrosion. Corrosion. Okay, now let's jump down to B. We have I-N, and look at this. It can be spelled with 1, 2, 3, and 4 ways, can it not? And it has two meanings, in or not. So below, you'll notice I underlined the not here. When you see a prefix below with a line under it, it's going to mean not. And if there is no line under it, it's going to mean in. Okay, it's kind of tricky. So you got a prefix that has two different meanings that actually don't seem to be related. So number one, we have in, and we have invite. I would like to invite you to tutor with me. Invent. Edison invented the light bulb. Invent. Intend. And by the way, that's called a alveolar. So the N and the T are pretty similar. If you think where your tongue reaches. Anyway, we have intend. I intend to help you read better. Increase. We're going to see an increase in your reading ability. So all of those have the idea of in. But now the idea means, I underline it, and it means not. By the way, you say, well, how do I know which it is? Well, the context will tell you what the meaning is in these instances. So the first one is inability. So here you have the word ability. That's what you can do. And inability means that you cannot do it. Inactive means you're what? Not active. Infrequent. Infrequent means you don't do it very often. It's infrequent. Inappropriate. Oh my goodness, you know what that is? When you say something you shouldn't and you'll get in trouble with your teacher. Don't say things that are inappropriate or do things that are inappropriate. Incomplete. We don't want any incomplete papers turned in our class. Incurable, and that's a sad word because it means it's an illness or a disease that cannot be cured. And last we have intransitive, and that we'll study in English. But if I say I hit the hat or I hit the ball, the word hit is transitive. But if it does not have a direct object, it will be a verb that will be intransitive. And forgive me, but that should be period there, I think. But anyway, pressing on. Number 2, ill means not. And again, notice what happened here. The N changes to an L. It's a chameleon. It's disguised if the next letter is an L. So look at this. Here we have illegal. That means not legal. So again, it's this meaning here, not. Illegitimate. If you didn't write your paper and somebody else did, and you put your name on it, that's illegitimate. It's not really yours. Then we have illogical. Illogical means not logical, and logical means it makes sense, and so it means it doesn't make sense. M. Now this is pretty interesting because here again the N changes to an M. Now they're both nasals, and so the next letter is going to be one of those what we call bilabials, or you use two lip. Bi means two and labial means lip, okay? So bilabial means you're using two lips. So here we have import, and we'll learn it when we study roots that port is the Romance, that's Latin or French element of layer of English for carry. So import means to carry something in. And again, the meaning there is the same. It means in. Imbibe means to drink something. Imbibe. Immortal. Mortal means it can die, and immortal means it cannot die. Imbalance means that it's not balanced, may fall over. Impasse is an interesting word. When you reach an impasse, you simply can't keep going. You'll have to stop. So it's called an impasse. Impossible. Now we know what possible means. That means you can do it. So if we put M in front, it simply means not possible. Next one we have is improper. By the way, if you try to say these words without changing to an M, it does not work. Watch this. Try to say improper. Improper. You just can't do it. Your lips are going to try to come together. Improper. So it's a euphonic change. That means it makes it easier, more pleasing to pronounce. Impractical. Improper is something that's not proper. It's not correct. Impractical means it's not practical. Sometimes I get really good ideas, and then when I try them, they don't work because they're just not, they sound good, but they're impractical. I think going to Mars, forgive me, may be impractical because it's very hard to do. Imprudent. Prudence, when you do the right thing, the good thing, and imprudent means you didn't do the right thing. That is, you did the wrong thing. And impure, when you drink water, you want pure water. And if somebody says that water is impure, then you don't want to drink it. IR is, the N here of N changes to an R when the next letter is an R. So here we have irrigate, like when you irrigate a field, put water on it. By the way, just try and say irrigate. It's almost impossible to make your mouth do that. So you can see why these changes simply make the word more pleasing to say. Irrigate, okay. Irrigation, that's the act of irrigating, right? Irregular, now again, notice these all mean, well, I'll take that back. The first two mean in. Irrigate and irrigation, you're putting water in or on the ground. But then IR, notice I've underlined that, and so it means not. And the M's, by the way, all meant not, I-M. So back here, okay, irregular means not regular. Irresponsible, that's a good word, but it's a bad thing. It's when somebody's not responsible. You're responsible to write your name on every paper before you turn it in, so we can tell who the student wrote it. And so irresponsible means that you're not responsible to do that. Irreplaceable means you cannot replace it. It's so important. And I know my friends have things, for example, glasses in the kitchen that were handed down from generations, and they're irreplaceable. You could not buy another replacement if you tried, so you need to be careful. Irreversible means you cannot reverse it. You can't put it in reverse. It's irreversible. Oh, I said that wrong. Okay, there we go. Let's back up a little bit. That's irresistible. Okay, it goes to show a teacher even has to remember to look at all the letters the right way. Irresistible is when you couldn't resist doing it. A good perfect example of that for me is dark chocolate. How can you bypass a dark chocolate candy when it's so absolutely delicious? So it's irresistible. You couldn't not resist it. Now we're back. We got irreversible. And that means that you were not able to reverse it. Okay, now we got those straightened out. Irrevocable, and that's why I underline these, so if I make a mistake, I can get you back. We can get back on track. Irrevocable is when you make a decision that you cannot or will not go back on. You're going to do it. It's irrevocable. I made up my mind. I'm going to do it. And the last one is irrelevant. That means it's not relevant. Okay, we're going to stop right there. And good luck on these. A little bit longer lesson because it's a little bit more involved. But I believe this is going to be a huge, tremendous help in helping you identify or decode words that you have never seen before, because you will not be fooled when the second letter of these two prefixes changes to assimilate to the letter after it. You're going to know what the meaning is.